So this night, we continue from where we stop in budgets, budget and budgetary control. We stop at functional budget. Under the functional budget, we have discussed revenue budget, we have discussed personnel budget, we have discussed cash budget. Now, this night, we shall quickly look at another forms of budget. The other forms of budget we are looking at this night, we need to classify budget according to period, classification of budget according to period.
Hello, sir.
How do we classify budget? Yes? Yeah,
Hello,
I can
sir.
hear you. Yes? Hello? I can hear you. Hello?
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, please, can you help us out? Can you help us solve that question 3 under the cash budget, sir?
Question 3 under the cash budget.
Yes, sir.
I should solve it.
Yes, sir. I tried solving it, but I had some issues there, sir.
Oh, okay. That will not be this night. That will be in our other class or when we are doing revision. But the question 3 on the cash budget, maybe by next lecture. By God's grace, on Sunday, we may do 1 hour's lectures too, on Sunday morning. We start our lecture from 8 to 9. So we may do 1 hour's lecture again on Sunday. So, and every Thursday, we'll be doing lectures too, so that we can cover up. So I will try and solve it. But for this night, I plan to discuss classification of budget based on the period. For us solving it again, it will take us back. You are right for asking for the question, for the solution. But maybe in our next class, we dealt with that.
Okay.
So,
okay, thank you, sir.
Yes. Classification of budget according to period. According to period, we can classify budgets into 3 types. We have short-time budgets, we have medium-time budgets, and we have long-time budgets. Classification of budget according to period can be classified into 3. Short-time budget, long-time, medium-time budget, and long-time budget. Under the short-time budget simply means operational plan, operation revenue, and expense. The budget that runs for 1 year is a short-time budget that does not exceed 1 year. Example of short-time budget, that appropriation act, the government normally sign into law. Appropriation act that government use to guide the expenditure, that they use to spend money, is a long-term budget. So that appropriation act is a long-time budget. So another forms of budget. The unique thing on long-time budget is it's just covered a year. Within a year, it's not more than 12 months. So that is long-time budget. We have another type of budget according to period. That one is called medium-time budget. Example of medium-time budget is called medium-time expenditure framework. Medium-time expenditure framework is a strategic plan of the government. It is a strategic plan of the government. So this medium-term expenditure framework runs between 3 to 5 years. It runs between what? 3 to 5 years. It is the projection of government revenue and expenditure for the next 3 years. Projection of government revenue and expenditures for the next 3 years. Medium-term expenditure framework normally approved every year by the National Assembly. Take for instance, we are in 2025. The medium-term expenditure framework that will be signed into law this year we covered 2026, 2077, and 2028. It means it will show the projection of revenue and expenditure government plan to spend in the next 3 years. When government wants to declare the annual budget, which is Appropriation Act, short-term budget, it's from the medium-term expenditure framework. Government normally remove the annual budget, which is the Appropriation Act. It is from the medium-term expenditure framework. So, medium-term expenditure framework in Nigeria is one of the fiscal plan of government that shows the projection of revenue and expenditure in the next 3 years, within the next 3 years. What are the content of medium-term expenditure framework? Content of medium-term expenditure framework. Number one content of medium-term expenditure framework: macroeconomic framework. Macroeconomic framework. Macroeconomic framework is one of the contents of medium-term expenditure framework. Another one is fiscal strategy paper. Fiscal strategy paper is another content of medium-term expenditure framework. We also have expenditure framework. It's another content of medium-term expenditure framework. And we have another one called revenue framework. Revenue framework is part of the content of medium-term expenditure framework. And the other one we have is called consolidated debt statement. Consolidated what? Debt statement is part of the content of medium-term expenditure framework. Aside that, we also have statement on contingency liability. Statement on contingency liability is also part of content of medium-term expenditure framework. What are the risks associated with medium-term expenditure framework? What are the risks associated with medium-term expenditure framework? What are the risks associated with medium-term expenditure framework? One of the risks experienced while preparing medium-term expenditure framework is global development or economic fragile. While preparing projection of revenue and expenditure for the next 3 years, there are some effects that will affect those revenue and expenditure. Those effects, they are global effects. They do not pertain to one country alone. It does not affect only one country. It affects the world globally. So, like emergency of new political risk. Maybe in the West Africa, there is emergency of new political risk by the military, the young military. They are now taking over the government, the elected democracy government. So it's a global economic effect. War between Ukraine and Russia is a global economic effect. persistent oil price decline. One of our major sources of revenue of government that is going to federation account is oil revenue, which is petroleum profit tax, sales of crude oil, oil mining license, oil prospecting license, penalty on gas flaring. All this revenue, they are coming from oil. If there is drastic reduction in price of crude oil, it will affect government revenue. So that is that. Another one, non-oil revenue risk. The non-oil revenue, it has some risk too. Low collection of tax. Sometimes some of the tax officials can collide with the taxpayer to reduce tax revenue. So it's a revenue, non-revenue risk too. So these two affect medium time expenditure framework. So these are the factors that affect medium time expenditure framework. So now we can now look at long-term budget. Long-term budget simply means long range planning or corporate planning. Those planning that exceed more than 5 years. Some people said more than 10 years. They are the long-term expenditure, long-term budget. So example, Vision 2020. Nigeria have a vision that in 2020, Nigeria will be among the G20 in the world, the Great 20. We call them the G, we have the G10. After the G10, there's G20, meaning those 20 countries that have the 20 country with positive economic growth. So in the 2000, they designed a long-time budget called Vision 2020 that by the year 2020, Nigeria should be among the G20. But when we now reach year 2020, we are not even among the G30. We are not even among the G40. And Nigeria have already the government have already made a plan that, this is what we can do to achieve that we are among the G20 so that our economy will grow. Let's invite so many investors. Let's revamp our infrastructures. But unfortunately, when we reached 2020, we couldn't count ourselves as the part of the country that are among the G20. Another example of long-term budget, Millennium Development Goal. Millennium what? Development Goal, MDG. MDG was part of the plan set up by government in the late 1990s. They started Millennium Development Goal around 1998. That by the time we enter millennium, which is 2000, they started Millennium Development even in the early 1990s. Sorry, that by the time we enter the 2000 year 2000, our countries should be able to achieve some goals, but some of those goals that we plan to achieve, we intend to achieve when we are in the year 2000, up till now, we couldn't achieve them. Part of the Millennium Development Goal was that Nigeria should be export-oriented countries. We should be exporting rather than importing, but whereas we couldn't achieve that. So these are long-term budgets. These are long-term budgets. Now, let's go to another classification of budget. Let's classify budget in another way. Classification of budget according to budgetary system. Classification of budget according to budgetary system. What is budgetary system? Budgetary system means what are the methods that government use to prepare? What are the methods government used to prepare their budget? So That is what budgetary system means. So under budgetary system, we have three types of budgets under budgetary system. We have three types of budget under budgetary system. What are the three types? Incremental budget is the first one, followed by zero-based budget. Zero-based budget. Our zero-based budget, we have another one called program planning budget system. Planning program budget system. So for this night, what we are going to look at for the rest of today is incremental. The rest of today is incremental budget. What is incremental budget? Like I said, is a budgetary system where budget is prepared by using previous period budgets or actual performance of previous period. Incremental budget is a budgetary system where budget is prepared.
I cannot hear you.
Using... You can't hear me? Hello? 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 Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello, class. Can you hear me now?
Your voice is breaking, sir.
My voice is breaking. Okay, let me change the direction. Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, class.
Hello, sir.
Hello,
Yes,
class.
sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Yes.
Okay. So we are on incremental.
I can't hear him.
Budget. We are on incremental budgets. Incremental budgets. So we are looking at incremental budgets. We said budget can be under classification of budget according to budgetary system. Budget can be classified into three categories. Under classification of budget according to budgetary system, budget can be classified into three categories. One of them is incremental budget. The second one is zero-based budget. While the third one is planning program budget system. So for the rest of today, we look at incremental budget. That is what we want to look at today. What is incremental budget? Incremental budget is a budget system where a future budget, where a budget is prepared using previous period budget or actual performance as a base with incremental amount added for the new budget period. What incremental budget simply means is that we want to prepare next year budget. When we want to prepare next year budget, 2026 budget, we want to prepare it. we are now using 2025 budget as a base for preparing 2026 budget. That means we want to use the figure that we use in 2025 to prepare 2026 budget. What we are going to adjust while preparing the budget is to make adjustment for inflation and level of activities. Inflation and level of activities. If, for instance, under our expenditure budget last year, we budget that printing and stationery is 20 million. We now want to prepare budget for 2026. We want to use 2025 as a base. The 2025 budget, printing and stationery is 20 million. So for 2026, we can say, printing and stationery is 20 million, but we are going to add inflation rate of 10%. That means 2026 printing and stationery is going to be 2025, 20 million plus 10%, which is 10% of 20 million, 2 million. That means printing and stationery in 2026 is going to be 22 million. By doing that, we are using incremental budget. By doing that, we are using incremental budget. Incremental budget is a budgetary system where future period budget is prepared using previous period budget or actual performance as a base with consideration of inflation and level of activities. What do we mean by level of activities? In 2025 budget, we budget that we are going to buy 20 laptops. One laptop is sold 500,000. In 2026, we now budget that since we have more staff, we have employed like 100 staff, additional staff. We now budget that we are going to buy 80 laptops. What will make the budget for laptop of 2025 to be less than the one of 2026 is because of level of activity. The level of activities in 2025 was 20 laptops, while the level of activities in 2026 is now how many laptops? 80 laptops. By virtue of that, the budget amount for 2026 will be more than what? 2025. Why? Because of the level of activities. And we make adjustment for inflations too. That is what is called incremental budget. That is what is called incremental budget. Now, what are the advantages of incremental budget? Some people call incremental budget traditional budgets. Nigeria government, they make use of incremental budget while preparing the government budgets. They make use of incremental budgets. So what are the benefits or advantages of incremental budgets? What are the benefits or advantages of incremental budget? The budget system is simple to prepare. The budget system is simple to prepare. That incremental budget system is very simple to prepare. Another advantage is it is a means of expenditure control. What is expenditure control? We are controlling our expenditure. We don't want to spend money recklessly. That means if we have budget that we are spending 25 million, we will not go beyond that 25 million. That is expenditure control. It ensures that money is assigned, money is used for the assigned uses. It's part of advantage of incremental budget. Another one is it protects the finances of an organization. It ensures protection of the finances of an organization. It's another one. Changes can be easily made in line item budget. Easily. Changes can be easily made in what? Line item budget. So, what are the problems of incremental budget? What are the problems of incremental budget? What are the problems of incremental budget? Number one problems of incremental budget is it focuses on 1 year results alone without looking at future cost implication of the current decision. That means incremental budget focus on 1 year result alone. When we want to prepare 2026 budget using incremental, we are going to use 2025 budget as a base alone. We are not going to use any other year budget as a base. That is one of the problems. What if that 2025 budget have some lapses, some weaknesses? That means those weaknesses will be transmitted to 2026 budget. Another one, incremental budget does not provide a meaningful way to evaluate or trade off between different services. Incremental budget does not provide a meaningful way to evaluate or trade off between different services. It also provides another one. It provides little information on the nature and level of activities. Incremental budget provides little information on the nature and level of activities. So these are the problems or criticism of incremental budget. So for the sake of time, let's look at question on incremental budget. Let's look at question on incremental budget for the sake of time. So somebody should help us read. Examinable question 1.
Okay. The local development authorities of a federal council agreed to transfer its cultural and social center for the purpose of adequate maintenance to the state government. The state government accepted to take over the centers and therefore requested for its 2017 budget. The following were supplied by the Cultural and Social Center to the government through the Cultural Office of the Accounts Department of the Ministry. Actual salaries and wages and overhead expenses 2016. Salaries 9.75 million, wages 8.42 million. Rates, this gives a total of 18.17 million. Rates 8.73 million. Power/electricity 2.7 million. Rent 2.6 million. Artifacts for sale 2.8 million. Security services 1 million. Other suppliers 2.51 million. Service level agreement 2.85 million. Promotion expenses 2 million. This brings the total expenditure to 43.37 million. The actual income in 2016, we have admissions with 9.01 million, sales in the center 4.78 million, other incomes 1.48 million, and grants 1 million, which brings the total income to 16.27 million. Therefore, the net expenditure is 27.1 million. Other details provided include salaries are made up of the following: Director MOH, social officer, and then we have the total. So the salaries for the Director MOH are 4.8 million. The national insurance for them is 0.48 million. Pension is 0.72 million, which brings the total for the director MOH to 6 million. For social officer, the salaries are 3 million, national insurance 0.3 million, pension 0.45 million, which brings their total to 3.75 million. And that gives us an overall total of 9.75 million.
Okay.
The wages were for 5 employees, known as cultural assistants, paid on an hourly basis with a maximum of 20 hours per week at 1,260 naira per hour, plus overtime bonus as follows. So for the salaries, the cultural assistants for 52 weeks were paid 1.31 million. Insurance was 0.131 million. Pension was 0.20 million, which gives a total of 1.64 million for the cultural assistants. So a total including the overtime of 8.435 million. The guideline for the budget has been given as follows. Expenses, rent to remain as at last year, since this will still be running for 2 years, but security service providers will charge only 0.6 million next year. No festival will be planned for the following year, and as a result, there will be no promotion expenses and grants in the following year. Though some number of visitors will come to the center, the rate of admission fees will go up by 10% for the following year. There will be an increase of 5% on other income. The budget for artifacts for sale will increase by the same proportion as the sales in the center budget, which will increase by 20%. Power/electricity and rates will increase by 8% and 2% respectively, while other supplies will increase by 2.5%. Salaries and wages. There would be 2.6% increase in wages, while the national insurance contributions will increase to 12% of salaries instead of the current 10%, and pension contribution will be 15% of salaries. The director MOH will not be due for salary increments, but social officer will earn an annual increment of 0.088 million. There will be no overtime payment. Civil agreement is fixed at 2.948 million. You are required to prepare the budget for Ifedun Local Development Authority, Cultural and Social Center for the year ended December 31st, 2017. Use the same format as in the question. 20 minutes.
Thank you very much. So we are giving budget of 2016. We are giving actual result of 2016. We are now, they now tell us to use it as a base to prepare 2017 budget. That is what they said. And the examiner said we should use the same format as in the question. That means if we want to prepare our budget for 2017, we are going to use the same format. We are going to start from salaries. So let's go to the solution. Salaries. Local government, local development authority, Federal Council, Cultural and Social Center, proposed budget for 2017. That is the heading. The first item we are going to ask, as stated in the question, in the table given to us, the first item is what? Salary. The salary for 2016 was 9.75. How do we get the 9.75? It was given to us in the note. Look at the note. Salaries are made up of what? Director of MOH and social officer. 2 people collect salary, director and social officer. Look at that 9.75 in the question, in the table. That table, the 9.75, how they get it, this is the breakdown. $9.75. This 9.75, the breakdown This is the breakdown. The 9.75 in this table, this is the breakdown that they get it. They get the 9.75. So they have for director, MOH, and social officer. The salary for director of MOH is 4.8, while the social officer is 3 million. While computing salary for 2017, for the budget of 2017, we state that, let's go to the working note. First working note is relating to salary. Salary for director of MOH for 2016, 4.8. Social officer salary is 3 million. That means the total salary is going to be what? The total salary will be the total is not stated. Sorry. So at the end of the day, if you total 4.8 plus 3.8, you get the total. Now, how do you get salary for 2017? We know that this is for 2016. 3.8, 3 million is for 2016. We now go to the note, additional note. So this salary for 2017, is it going to increase or not increase? If you look at additional note B, director of MOH will not be due for salary increment. But social officer will earn what? Annual increment of 0.88. That means if you are preparing salary for 2017, we use 2016 plus increment. The 2016, 4.8 for director, 3.0 for social officer. We now write increment. Does director of MOH has increment? No. But social officer has increment of how much? 0.088. That means the total salary for director of MOH in 2017, excluding pension and insurance, 4.8. But the one of social officer will be 3.088. So 3.088. At the end of the day, you sum the two together. You need to sum the two together. Another one, after this salary, if you look at the format again, this format, or how they get salary for 2016. If you look at how they get the salary for 2016, if you look at the format, how they get the salary for 2016. After salary, they added insurance, national insurance. We now go to this question again. Do we have any note on insurance? What is the note we have on insurance? They said, if you look at note A, there will be 2.6% increase in wages. Why national insurance contribution is going to increase to what? 12% of salary instead of current how many percent? 10%. That means 2016 national insurance, the rate is any rate 10%. In 2017, which is the budget we are preparing, it will be 12%. Let's go and cross-check. The salary for director of MOH in 2016 was 4.8. 10% of 4.8, it will give us 0.48. Social officers too. The salary in 2016 was what? 3 million. 10% of 3 million, 0.30, which is 300,000. This 2017 insurance rate in 2017, national insurance rate contribution has now increased to what? Now 2017, they say we should use. So 4.8, 3.088. We move to national insurance. 12%, which means 12% of 4.8. 576. And 12% of 0.37, 3.088. 12% of it, 0.371. That is it on national insurance. We are done with national insurance. If you go to the format again, how they get the salary for 2016. If you go to the format, how they get the salary for 2016. After national insurance, they have another element called what? Pension. Another element called pension. We now go to the note given to us to prepare 2017 budget. What is the note on pension? What is the note on pension? What note do we have on pension? What is the pension rate? What is the pension rate? So what is the pension rate in 2017? That is what we want to look at. What is the pension rate in 2017? If you look at that note B, the note B, the pension rate was stated. The note B, the pension rate was stated. They said pension contribution will be how many percent of salary? 15% of salary. Pension contribution will be 15% of salary. Pension contribution will be 15% of salary. So 15% of each of the salary. For director of MOH, his own pension is going to be 15% of 4.8. For director of MOH, his own pension will be 15% of 4.8. 15% of 4.8. It will give us 0.720. Why? For social officer, is going of 3.088. That will give us 0.463. At the end of the day, the total of the salary, both the salary, insurance, and pension together for director of MOH will be 6.096. While for social officer is going to be 3.922. If we add the two together, how much is going to give us? Somebody should help us add 6.096 plus 3.922. If we add the two together, how much is it giving us? How much is it giving us?
10.018.
0.
10.018.
I'm talking of these two.
Yes.
So if you go to our solutions to this question, the main solution, salary. Look at the main solution. Salary, working note 1, 10.0 what? 018. Is it correct?
Yes.
Is it correct?
Yes.
That is it on salaries. The major question is both salaries and wages. Others are very simple. The crux of the matters in this question is salaries and wages. The others, they are very, very simple, easy to understand. So the next one is wages. According to the format, if you go to the format of last year budget, 2016 budget, after salary, we have what? Wages. And the wages is how much? 8.42. How do we get the 8.42? That is the question. So that we are going to use the format that they used to get the 8.42 to get our 2017 wages. How do we get it? How do we get the 8.42? We have stated that, how they get the 8.42? They said cultural assistant 20 hours per week, 1.260 per hour for 52 weeks. At the end of the day, they get for one cultural assistant, and they have 5 employees working as cultural assistant. 5 staff, they are regarded as cultural assistants. 5 of the employee. But for one of them to get the salary of one of them under wages, have 1.31. We know that last year insurance rate was 10%. 10% of 1.31, it gives them insurance. And pensions too, 15%. The same rate of last year is still the same rate we are using this year. 15% on 20. That is how they get the last year amount for wages. Last year amount for wages was 8.42. That is, look at the final amount of the wages, 8.42. Though it's the right 8.43, but it's 8.42 was stated in the table. Now, we want to get the wages for 2017. How do we get it? We want to get the wages for 2017. This is the wages for 2016. We want to get the wages for 2017. Let's go to the working notes. Wages for 2017. I know that salaries alone, excluding under the wages, salaries alone for one of the staff, excluding pension and insurance, is 1.31. I'm referring to this 1.31. Let me show you in the question. This 1.31 is only for one of the staff alone. After they get insurance, pension, they add everything together. For one staff, the total wages for the one staff is 1.641. While for the 5 staff is 8.205. How? 1.641 times 1.641 times 5. So for the 5 cultural assistants, for the 5 is 8.205. How they get the 8.205? They said 1.641. That is how they get the 8.205. The salary for one staff under wages is 1.31. Wages comprises of salary, insurance, and pension under the wages element. The salary alone for one staff is 1.31, insurance 0.1 TD1, pension 0.20, everything together 1.641. For 5 of the staff that is known as cultural assistants is 1.641 times 5. That is 8.205. Now go back to 2017. I want to get the wages for 2017. So based on my calculation, I now said salary alone for 5 cultural assistants. For 5 cultural assistants, I said salary for 5 cultural assistants is going to be 1.31 times 5. It's giving me 6.550. That is salary alone for 5 cultural assistants, excluding insurance and pension. Increment. Does the salary alone increase in 2017? Let's go and check the notes. Does the salary increase? It increased. Note A said there will be 2.5% increase in wages. There will be 2.5% in what? Wages. That salary under wages is going to increase by 2.6%. That salary under wages will increase by 2.6%. 6.550. That will give us 0.170. That is how we get the increment. The total, both last year and the increment, is going to be 6.720. That is the total now. That is only salary alone. Now, after salary, according to the format, insurance. What is the insurance rate? Insurance rate for this year is 12%. 12% of this 6.720. That will give us what? 8.806. Pension, 15% of the total salary, which is 6.720. 15% of it is going to give us 1.088. 1.008. Total of everything. Total of pension, total of salary, pension, and insurance. It will give us 8.535 under the wages. Now, look at the last year format. After they get the total salary, they now add overtime of 0.230. We go and check in this 2017 budget we want to prepare. Are we giving note on overtime? Please, let's check round. Is there any note on overtime? Do we have any note on overtime?
Yes, they said there will be no overtime payment.
That means in 2017, there will be no overtime payment. Overtime payment will be 0. It will be 0. 0. So overtime, 0. That means your total wages will still remain 0.535. Your total wages will still remain 0.535. So you go to the main solution, working notes 2. Wages is what? 0.535. You add salaries and wages together. Because according to the question said, we should prepare the budget using the same format in the question. According to the format of the budget in the question, look at the format. They added the two together. I mean, the two of them was what? Added together. So in the solutions too, we add it together. Salary 10.018, which is 8.535. The total will give us what is next according to the format of the budget in this question. What is next after wages? Rates. Can we all see that? Rates. The rate for 2016 was what? 8.73. The rate for 2016 was what? 8.73. What is the note on rate that will guide us to prepare 2017 budget? What is the note on rates? What is the note on rates? Who can help me to start the note on rates? Where is the note on rates? There will be a note that relates to rates in 2017 budget. What is the note? Note 5. Can we? Somebody should help me read the note 5. Note 5.
Electricity and rates will increase by 8% and 2% respectively, while other supplies will increase by 2.5%.
That means rates will increase by how many percent?
8% and
2%.
2%.
Power slash electricity is 8%. Rate will increase by how many percent? 2%. So working those 3 rates. Look at rates. Rate for 2016 was 8.73. Increment 2% of 8.73.
I cannot hear you,
2%
sir.
of what? Rate for 2016. The rate for 2016 is what? 8.73. And we are told that this rate is going to increase by how many percent? 2%. That means 2% of 8.73. It will give you what? 0.175. 0.175. Can we see that? Can you see that? That means the total rate for 2017 will be the one of 2016 plus the increment, which is give you 0.905. 0.905. Another way we can do it, we can say, since we know the rate of for 2016 is 8.73, and we are told that the rate is going to increase by 2%, we can say 102% of 8.73. 102% of 8.73 it will still give you 8.905. That means the rate for 2017 will be what? 8.905. You go and put it in the main solution. Rate 8.905. After rates, the next item is what? After rates, power and electricity. For 2016, it was 2.70. What is the note on power and electricity? We are told that power and electricity, power slash electricity, they are going to increase by how many percent? They are going to increase by how many percent?
5%.
8%.
No, 8%. 8%. So We go to working notes, power and electricity. For 2016 was 2.70. Increment 8%. 8% of 2.70, 0.216. Total, both last year and the increment, will give us 2.916. 2.916. We can say 108% of 2.70 is to still give us 2.916. After power and electricity, power/electricity, the next item, because we are following the same, the next item is what? Rents. The next item is what? Rents. 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 So let's go to the solution. Rent. What is the note on rent? What is the note on rent? What is the note on rent? Where is the note on rent? Under the guideline for the budget. Which note relate to rent? Note 1. Can we all see that? Note 1. They said rent to remain as at last year, since the list will be running for how many years? 2 years. That means 2017 rent will be the same with which year rent? Will be the same with 2016. Look at 2016 rent, 2.60. And in the note, under the guideline for the budget, we are told that rent will remain as at last year. That means the rent of 2017 will be the same amount used in 2016. Because the list will run for 2 years. So, under the rent, we don't need any working notes. What we just need is for us to say rent is 2.60. The figure of the. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, after rent, the next item after rent is called artifact for sales. Artifact for sales. In the question, artifact for sales was 2.8. Let's go to the guideline to the budget. The guideline to the budget, which notes relate to artifact for sale? There must be a note that will relate to artifact for sales. Which note relate to artifact for sales?
Note 4.
Note 4. Note 4 said there will be increase of 5% on other income. Budget for artifact for sale will increase in the same proportion as the sales in the center, which increased by how many percent? 20%. That means artifact for sales will increase by 20%. 20%. Artifact for sales. 2016 artifact for sales was 2.8. Why increment is going to be 20% of 2.8? 20% of 2.8. That will give us what? 0.560. Or we can say 120% of 2.8. It will give us the total amount of 2017 artifact for sales, which is 3.360. So our artifact for sales is 3.360. That is what we are going to put into our solution. Artifact for sales, 3.360. After artifacts for sales, according to the format in the question, The next item we have is called security service. Security service. Security service. What is the note on this security service? What is the note on security service? Last year, security service was 1 million. 1 million. So let's go to our budget guideline. Our budget guideline. What note do we have on security service? They said, note 1 said, security service provider, we charge how much? We charge 0.6 million next year. Then we charge 0. What? 0.6 million next year. Last year was 1 million. But the question said out that for this 2017, which is the next year, is going to be how much? 0.6 million. So there is no working on that. It's just for us to write security service 0.60. After that, the next item, according to the format in the question, after security service, we have other supply. Other supply for last year was 2.51. What is the note on other supply in the budget guideline? What is the note on other supply in the budget guideline? Other supply will increase by how many percent? Other supply is going to increase by how many percent? Other supply will increase by 2.5%. Note 5. Can we all see that? Note 5. Can we see other supply?
Yes.
So we go to working notes, other supply. Other supply. Working notes, other supply. Other supply for last year was 2.510. Why for this year is going to be 2.5% increment. That means 2.5% of 2.510, 0.063. Addition of the two will give us 3.573. 3 point what? 573. 3.573. That is our other supply. So we put that in the solution. Other supply, 3.573. Can we see that? Some people are complaining that they can't hear me clearly. Let me change my direction again. Let me change my direction. Let me change my direction. Since they cannot hear me clearly. Other supply. Hello, can you hear me clearly now? Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we are on other supply. We have done other supply 2.573. Let's go back to the format in the question. After other supply, the next item we have is service level agreement. For 2016, The service level agreement was 2.85. Service level agreement was what? 2.85. Let's go to our budget guideline. What is the note on service level agreement? Service level agreement. What is the note? If you go to note D, which is the last note, they say service level agreement is going to be fixed at what percentage? 2.948. That means in our 2017 service level agreement will be 2.948. 2.948. So that would be service level agreement 2.948. After that, let's go to the format in the question again. The next item we have after service level agreement is called promotional expenses. Promotional what? Expenses. For the promotional expenses, 2.01 2.01 is the promotional expenses for 2016. What is the note on promotional expenses? What is the note? On promotional expenses in our budget guideline? What is the note? Which note? That is note what?
Note 2.
Note 2. No festival will be planned for the following year. As a result of that, there will be no what? Promotional expenses and grant for the following year. That means in 2017, there will be no promotional expenses. So promotional expenses will be zero in 2017. So my promotional expenses will be zero. At the end of the day, the total of my expenses, starting from rates to promotional expenses, is 23. The total is 23,907,000. That is the total expenses. Plus, if you plus it together with 18,553,000, the total expenditure is now going to give us 42,454,000. Total expenditures will give us 42,454,000. Projected income in 2017 now. You know, we are following the format in the question because ideally, if you want to prepare budget, income supposed to come before expenditure. But the examiner said we should follow the same format in the question. In the format in the question, before income. After the expenditure, they now have income. Under the income, the first item under the income is called admission. 901 was admission for 2016. Now, let's go to the note. What is the note on admission? So that we can use it for 2017 budget. What is the note on admission? Admission. Where do we see admission? Oh. Note 3. Note what? 3. Though same number of visitors will come to the center, but the rate of admission fee is going to go up by how many percent? By 10%. that means admission will increase by 10%. So all under the income, we have admission is going to increase by 10%. Admission for last year, 901, 10% of 901, that is 901. So that means total admission for 2017, 9.911. After the admission, we have which other one after the admission? Which other one do we have after admission? We have after the admission in the table. Let's go to the format. Sales in the center is what we have after admission. Sales in the center. What is the note in the budget guideline that relate to sales in the center? Which note relate to sales in the center under the budget guideline? Sales in the center. Sales in the center. Sales in the center. Note 4. Note 4 said the budget for artifacts for sale will increase by the same proportion as the sales in what? In the center, which increased by 20%. That means sales in the center will increase by how many percent? 20%. So sales in the center for last year was 2.2. Sales in the center for last year was 4. Sales in the center for last year was 4.780. Why sales in the center is going to increase by 20%? 20% of 4.780. That will give us what percentage? That will give us 0.956. So 0.956 plus 4.780. That will give us 5.736. That is the amount of sales in the center. 5.736. That is the amount of sales in the center. 5.736. That is the amount of sales in the center. After sales in the center, which other part do we have other income? Which other part we have? We have another one under the income. We have another item called other income. Another item called other income. This other income, how do we get it? The note on other income. Which note do we have on other income? Which note do we have on other income? Notes that relate to other income. Note 4, there will be an increase of 5% on other income. That means other income will increase by 5%. Other income is going to increase by what? 5%. Other income for last year, 2.5 income for last year is 1.480. For the one of increment of 5%, that is 0.074. The total is going to be 1.554. 1.554. That is other income for 2017. 1.554. 1.554. That is other income for 2017. After other income, which other item do we have under the income side? Which other item? We have grants. Grant for last year was 1 million. What will be the grant for 2017? Our budget guideline will tell us. The grant for 2017, our budget guideline will tell us. So let's search our budget guideline through. Let's search through our budget guideline to look for any notes that talk about grants. Which note talk about grants? Which note talk about grants?
Two.
Note 2. What is the note 2 saying about grants?
There will be no promotion
They said no festival will be planned for the following year. As a result of that, there will be no promotion expenses and grant in the following year. That means grant will be zero. Grant will be zero in 2017. Grant, zero. At the end of the day, you total your income together. If you total your income together, it will give you 17.201. That is your total income. You minus your total income, you minus it from your expenditure, you will get net expenditure of 25.25 trillion. That is the final answer. 25.25 trillion. We are following the same format as it was stated in the budget. We are following the same format as it was stated in the budget. This is incremental budget. We are using 2016 as a base to prepare 2017 budget. That is incremental budget. The opposite of incremental budget is called what? Zero-based budget. Zero-based budget simply means a budget system where you do not consider previous period results to prepare future budgets. You don't consider what have taken place in the past as a base to prepare the future budget. That is zero-based budget. So this question is the real incremental budget. Is one of the way incremental budget can be set. Another simple question on incremental budget that was set, that was examinable question 2. That one is direct. This examinable question 2 is direct. Can we look at it or we should postpone the class? Then within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we are done with this one. So let's look at this examinable question 2 on incremental budget. Within 10 minutes, we are done. It's direct and it's one of the first questions. It says, A part of the question said, what is incremental budget system? While the B part of the question said, the Ministry of Establishment of Calabari State provided the following information about the budget and actual overhead and personnel costs in respect of year 2012. We are giving subhead, description, provision, and actual. All those expenditure, overhead. Number 1 is personnel cost. Why others, starting from travelings and tour up to the last one, they are overhead. You know, your recurrent expenditure under public sector accounting, you can divide it into 2. Personnel costs and overhead. You divide your recurrent expenditure into 2. All these items, they are recurrent expenditure. Number 1 is personnel costs. While others, they are overhead, starting from travels and tour, utility service, telephone and postage, up to the last one, they are overhead. Provision means budget. We are giving 2012 budget result. We are also giving actual result of 2012. And the examiner asks us that they now give us additional information. They give us additional information. What is the additional information given to us? An inflation factor of 10% on overhead is to be considered. That means overhead, excluding personnel costs, is going to be affected by inflation of 10% while doing 2013 budget. Increase in activities level in 2013 budget is going to be affected by 15% for overhead too. That means activities level for 2013 will increase by 15%. Inflation will increase by 10%. Note 3, this one affects personnel costs. 10% of the total salary for 2012 is required to meet additional personnel in 2013. The personnel cost of 2012 include 380,000 spent on staff allowance. Why? The staff allowance of the staff allowance will be 30% of the year 2013 staff salary. That means the staff allowance for 2013 is going to be 30%. Prepare budget of 2013 on incremental basis, show workings. If you want to do this budget, starting from overhead, starting from travels and tour to the last item, they are overhead. Now, we are giving budget of 2012. We are giving actual result of 2012. While preparing 2013 budget, which one are we going to use as a base? Is it the budget of 2012 or actual result of 2012 we are going to use as a base for preparing 2013 budget? Which one are we going to use?
Solution.
No. Any other idea? We are going to use the actual results. Actual result is more realistic than what? Than budget. You know, provision is budget. Assuming we are not giving actual results, we can use budget of 2012 to prepare budget of 2013. But since we are giving actual result of 2012, we are going to use actual result of 2012 to prepare budget of 2013, because actual result figure is more realistic than what? Than what? Than budget. It's more reliable than budget. Do you understand?
Yes.
So, by virtue of that, we will not do anything with this provision figure at all given to us in the question. Our base figure is going to be on this actual. Our figure will be on what? Actual. Now, let me just keep personnel costs. For travels and tour, utility service, they are all overhead. In the notes, what affect overhead? In the notes. What are the two factors that affect overhead? In the notes. One of the factors that affect overhead is what? Inflation affect overhead costs. Another one called what? Increase in activities level. So if we want to do budget of 2013, we need to incorporate these two factors, inflation and increase in level of activities. Like the previous question we saw, only one factor affects. But in this question, it's a two-factor incremental budget. Two factors affect the incremental budget, inflation and level of activities. Now, let's go to the working note on overhead. Look at travels and tour. The actual amount of travels and tour, actual result of travels and tour in 2012 is 290 times 110%. That 110% stands for what percentage? Inflation. Times again 115%. The 115% stand for what? Level of activity. Additional note have informed us that overhead cost is affected by how many factors? Two factors. One of them is inflation, 10%. That means inflation, because of inflation, overhead cost of 2013 is going to increase by 10%. Assuming overhead cost of 2012 is 290, overhead cost of 2013 will be 110 of 290. Another factor, level of activities. That one is 115. That means now all this our overhead is going to be affected by 110 times 115. Your travels and tour for 2013 will be 36685. You move to the next item, utility service. 160 times 110 times 115. It will give you 20240. You will continue up to the last overhead. That is how you get overhead for 2013, because the same inflation factors affect them. The same level of activities factors affect them in this question. In some question, inflation that will affect travels and tour may be different from utility service. It may be different from telephone service. But this one, general inflation of 10% affect all the overhead costs. And general level of activity level rate of 15% affect all the overhead costs. We use that straight down, starting from travels and tour, up to the last item that is called contribution to foreign bodies. Actual figure times inflation rate times level of activities rate. You get your budget for 2013. I hope this is clear. Do you understand? That is how you get it. Eh?
Understood.
Okay. We are done with overhead. The one that is remaining that we are here to solve, look at it. Look at my solution. Calabari State, Ministry of Establishment, budget for 2013. You write subhead, description, note, amount. Note 1, which is working note 1, is personnel costs. Let me go and describe how we get the personnel costs. We are told that personnel costs, 2012 salary. How much is 2012 salary? Actual. How much? 1,530,000. That is the actual. That is 2012 salary. We are told that this 2012 salary, what happened to the 2012 salary? They said 10% of total 2012 salary is required to meet additional what? Personnel costs in 2013. The personnel cost for 2012 include 380,000 spent on what? Staff allowance. And the staff allowance will be 30% of 2013. The staff allowance for 2013 is going to be 30% of year 2013 staff salary. Now, first of all, we need to go and remove in the working notes personnel cost for 2012, 1,530,000. we less the staff allowance for 2012. The staff allowance for 2012 is 380. That means personnel cost excluding staff allowance is going to give us 1,150,000. This 1,150,000 is going to increase by how many percent according to the question? It's going to increase by how many percent according to the question? It's going to increase by 10%.
10%.
It's going to increase by 10%. So after getting that 1,150,000, 10% of 1,150,000, it will give you 100 and what? 15. You plus it together with 1,150,000. That means personnel cost for 2013, excluding staff allowance, it will give you 1,265,000. And we're told that what is the staff allowance for 2013 in the question? 30% of personnel cost, staff salary of 2013. 30% of 2013 staff salary. Staff allowance for 2013. 30% of salary, which is 30% of 1,265,000. It will give us 379.5. That is the total salary for 2013. The total salary of 2013, which is total personnel cost of 2013, will now give us 1,644.5. 1,644.5. You can see that in the solution. At the end of the day, after getting all the personnel costs and overhead, you add everything together. The total budget cost for 2013 will give us 8,032,000.75, 32,750. Hope this is clear. Do you have any question on this? Do you have any question regarding this? So in the absence of no question, we are done with personnel cost incremental budget. So our next class will start from zero-based budget. So thank you for having me. Have a nice day. Any other question?